I feel like I have no purpose. But what if I told you purpose is not found, it's built? Hello, my name's Aku. I work as a resident doctor in the UK and I've always struggled to find my purpose. But after chilling with a few psychiatrists, I found out that the more you try and chase your purpose, the further away it runs away from you. Let me explain. So about a year ago, I was really confused on which path to take in life. I had two paths to take, and I feel like some of you can relate to this maybe. So path A is one that has more money, but is less fun. And path B is one that has less money, but it's more fun. And I didn't know which path to take. So path A was, for example, being a cardiologist. And path B was, let's say, for sake purpose, being a GP. I didn't know which path to take, and I thought that I need to overanalyze every option and I need to find my purpose so I can pick which path to take. And I was so paralyzed by this analysis paralysis of which choice is the best for me that I couldn't even make a decision. And in a severe sense, we can kind of see a similarity in people who suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, where they overanalyze the options so much to a point where they literally get physical symptoms like chest pain and palpitations. So coming back to this example, I was waiting for my purpose. Because once I found my purpose, then I could pick which medical specialty I want to take. But now we have a lot of evidence to suggest that it's not actually which path you take that gives you purpose. It's taking the path which gives you purpose. So having a sense of control or direction in your life is what gives you purpose. So we actually know from scientific literature something called self-determination theory, where they did a test of more than 1,000 participants and they found those who felt like they had a greater sense of control within themselves also reported a greater sense or feeling of having purpose in life. Now, this is really important to note. They feel like they have a greater sense of purpose. So this is the first thing to note. Purpose isn't necessarily something that is extrinsic, something you find. It's an internal psychological feeling, and this is very subjective. For example, a homeless person who doesn't have a home, who doesn't have a job, who doesn't have any kids, can report feeling purpose. But a rich billionaire who has the best family in the world and has a massive impact on the world might not have any purpose. So it's not necessarily your actions or what is outside of yourself. It's an internal psychological subjective feeling. The second point to note is it seems like having a sense of purpose is also correlated with having a sense of direction or a sense of control in life. So it's not necessarily about which path you take. It's about taking the path and feeling a sense of control. And so the more control you have, or the sense of control you have, the more sense of direction you feel like your life's in, the greater sense of purpose you feel. So purpose isn't a binary yes or no. You can literally have a scale of purpose. So someone could report a 6 out of 10 for purpose and someone can report a 2 out of 10. So when I first heard about this, I thought, yes, you know what? I'm going to control everything I can in my life so I can feel a greater sense of purpose. And like you know, you can't control anything in life, right? For example, I turned on this fire, right? I matched, whatever you call it, right? I got the fire on, but I don't know whether this works. I don't know whether the candle's faulty. You can't control everything in life. And so when I tried this logic, I came across a few problems. And so, for example, let's take path A, where you got a lot of money, but it's very boring, the actual work. And you have these problems like you don't like your colleagues, the building's very bad, and you don't like your desk because it's broken or your seat's broken. So these are problems you have on your path. Now, you're going to feel like you're not in control because control is just a sense of feeling. And so what's the most logical thing to do here? You might consider actually fixing these problems. Let me fix the chair. And fair enough, that will help you. But we have a lot of scientific evidence to suggest that that's actually not the best way to go about having a greater sense of control. And so these problems that we're encountering, they're called passive challenges. So passive challenges means challenges that are given to you, whereas active challenges are challenges that you choose to take on. For example, if you want to pick up a hobby, that's an active challenge. So I got this idea from Dr. Alok, who's a Harvard psychiatrist, but he essentially says that our brain does a very bad job of quantifying the number of passive challenges we have. But instead, it looks at our problems in a ratio of active challenges to passive challenges. And so if we reduce your passive challenges from, let's say, 6 to 2, you will never get to 0 because you will get more passive challenges along the way. But what you can do is you could actually increase the number of active challenges you do. So you take on a hobby or you take on some new challenges at work. This decreases the ratio of passive challenges to active challenges and makes you feel a greater sense of control and therefore a greater sense of purpose. Now, I know this sounds really complicated and there's probably loads of different ways you can talk about purpose, but my whole crux or my whole thesis is increasing your sense of control increases your sense of purpose. And so a useful mental exercise would be to ask yourself, how can I increase my sense of control on this? Not necessarily actually control the thing, but a sense of control. What active challenges can I take? Now, there's going to be times where, yes, you do want to feel like you're in control, but you're going to be lazy. Oh, I can't be bothered to wash the dishes. I do want to wash the dishes, but I just cannot be bothered. I feel lazy. And that's a whole separate issue. And if you want to hear me talk about that, I've made a whole video on it right over here, where I talk about people who are ambitious but lazy. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Drop a comment below if there's something that you want me to make a video on, and I'm happy to make a video on it because I don't get many views right now, so it's probably quite easy for me to respond to you. Thank you so much for watching, and catch me in the next video. Bye-bye.